Let's move on to our final process, close project or phase. Close project or phase is the final process in the project integration management knowledge area, but it is also, when you take a look at the PMBOK guide as a whole, it's that last thing you do to close everything else out. Now, I know stakeholder management is the last knowledge area, but the last process is close project or phase. Especially if you're looking down by process group, the last thing you do in closing is closing out either the phase or the project. So you're closing out either a phase or a project, and a big one, you're collecting lessons learned. What are some of the things that happen as you're closing out the project or phase? First of all, you want to ensure stakeholder satisfaction. You want to transition the deliverable to the customer. You want to carry out your lessons learned. And of course, we're talking about the overall lessons learned. This is where you're compiling all of those lessons learned that you've been collecting already throughout the project. This is where you want to make sure sellers are paid. You also want to make sure you're releasing resources and you are archiving any relevant documents into the organization's repository, OPAs, organizational process assets, or the corporate knowledge base. Okay? Let's take a look at our inputs, tools and techniques and outputs from this process. The main goal is transitioning the deliverable to the customer and carrying out a final lessons learned for a phase or the project as a whole. The inputs to this process, the project charter, we've talked about this previously. Remember, it has exit criteria. The project management plan, which guides us on how to close the project. We have project documents as relevant, and there's so many of them. I'm not even going to go into that now. Accepted deliverables. These are deliverables that have been accepted by the customer. Well, we need to transition these deliverables to the customer's team, operations team, who are going to be working with the deliverable that we've got from the project or the service. We also have business documents. And when we talk about business documents, all manner of business documents, which could include the business case and the benefits management plan. These could be included here. You know, the PMI is fond of the clause could include, but are not limited to, business case and benefits management plan. We also have agreements. Anything that was in an agreement, in a contract, we need to make sure it's done and it's fulfilled. The next input is procurement documentation and organizational process assets. A lot of stuff. Let's take a look at the tools and techniques. Expert judgment needs no introduction. As we're closing out the project, any expertise needed to close out the project comes in here. Data analysis is a big one here too. So document analysis, analyzing various project documents to make sure that indeed we can close out the project. Regression analysis, make sure that we are truly on track and we've stayed on track, or have we regressed in any way. Trend analysis, looking for trends towards project closure. It helps us learn lessons, of course. And variance analysis, what did we plan? What did we get? Okay. And the last tool and technique is meetings. Let's take a look at our outputs here. The first output, project documents updates. Now it looks a little bit innocent and familiar, but bear in mind that there is a very important document, the lessons learned register, which could be updated as a result of this process. It's a very important one to look out for. The lessons learned register could be used on associated projects to understand what went well, what didn't go so well on this particular project, and make sure that we avoid any errors and we capitalize on things that we've done well and we make them repeatable and so on. The next output is final product service or result transition, and this refers to the final transition of the deliverable to the customer. The next output is final report. Many projects require a final report regarding various items, and this is where you would put that together. This should have already been discussed way in advance of the project. Last but not least, organizational process assets updates. This refers to all of those documents that are going to the organization's repository, going to either update the processes and procedures, or update the corporate knowledge base. And that, folks, is really the end of this process, close project or phase. But it's big because on the exam, remember, you're going to get quite a few questions. And we only have one process in this entire area of closing out the project. So I would advise that you spend some good time going through the inputs and especially the outputs of this process, the lessons learned, register, final product, service, or result transition, final report, lessons learned as a whole. Understand all that stuff, and you'll be smiling all the way to the score bank to get your huge scores on the PMP or CAPM exam. Okay? So that's that for our final process. And in the next few videos, we'll wrap up and I'll give you guidance on what to do next.